1, it's called Politics as Usual. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered himself. Proverbs 11, verse 25. Nearly 50% of registered voters in America don't vote in national elections. Those of us who need the help of our government the most couldn't care less about politics. Many of us complain about the president or the Congress. But when we are presented with ways of making things better, we don't want to get involved. The 1992 election presents us with all these problems and more. During the last 25 years, conservative Republicans have been running a well-constructed propaganda campaign which they thrust into every election. At the core of this conservative manifesto is something called traditional family values. Some of these core values include a revered position in society for the nuclear family, mom, dad, and a couple of kids. Also included in this manifesto for clean living are religious affiliations and a free hand for business, no matter if the businesses hurt or kill people. Profits before people. According to this creed, only Republicans can have these values or can see that government establishes these values through law and practice. Thus, we should only elect Republicans to all offices all over America. One party rule, fascism. Since 1980, it seems that a majority of the electorate is either naturally stupid or has bought this conservative propaganda. Because Republicans own the White House and the Supreme Court. To get elected, even some Democrats have come on board. This year's Democratic platform almost reads Republican. Everyone is supposedly moving toward the center of the political spectrum in some linear fashion. But the political spectrum should be viewed as a hologram with no beginning and no end, three-dimensional, where right and left merge along the curve. In essence, what is being done is that everyone is trying to quiet faction, to do away with discord. But discord is at the core of democracy. Discord is the impetus for change, evolution, and growth. Without discord, there is only the status quo. In the last 24 years, we have had 4 Republican presidents in office for 20 of those years. During Richard Nixon's regime, the country experienced recession, devaluation of the dollar, wage and price controls, high inflation, and several extensions of unemployment benefits. Recession continued under Gerald Ford, and when Reagan took office in 1980, there was another recession. Even with a cowed Congress who granted Reagan anything he wanted, Reaganomics improved only the lot of the 1% at the top of the economic ladder. And with George Bush the first, who understood that Reaganomics was voodoo economics, we have a recession. We have a 7.7 national unemployment rate and several unemployment benefits extensions. Still, the myth that Republicans are better for our economy persists. It is dangerously clear that people's belief systems are not subject to reality. This is the crux of the problem. The conservative propaganda of traditional family values is merely a belief system with no basis in fact. These values are not derived from Judeo-Christian sources as they would have us believe. They are derived from pagan sources. During the primary elections, candidate Jerry Brown tried to point up some of the problems involved in our political process. He presented us with facts, but belief systems of him being a flake or Governor Moonbeam won out, and he lost. The myth that liberalism is dead among Democrats who wish to be elected to high office is in vogue. They have bought into the conservative propaganda. They don't defend their righteous liberal positions from the conservative lies. They capitulate. They don't point out that under Ronald Reagan's fiscal conservatism, America's 934,000 richest households now have a net worth higher than that of its 84 million poorest households. Just 1% of its households own 37% of America's total net worth. Much of this wealth was inherited or obtained in ways that contributed nothing to the economy. Yet this obscene concentration of wealth in the hands of these non-productive parasites is defended fiercely by conservative Republicans who claim that they are the achievers and that the rest of us are parasites. What is not understood by the vast majority of Americans is that conservative Republicans seek the fiscal destruction of the American government. Ronald Reagan went to Washington to destroy our government's revenue base. His people theorized that if they cut taxes, it would force congressional spenders into abuses of the surpluses of the Social Security taxes. Conservative Republicans believe in the fiscal overthrow of the United States government. If they had their way, our government would consist of a conglomeration of special interest corporations. In fact, it would be nothing more than a milch cow for the Pentagon and for the rich and for whore politicians. Conservatives get away with their nonsense regarding traditional family values because 2/3 of us agree on these values. In one way or another, most of us tend to believe that the family is the basic unit of society, and that less government is better, that we need lower taxes and more religion. We may not know why we hold these beliefs, but we do. Let's examine these conservative values and myths a little more closely. The facts in recent decades show that Republicans are less able to handle the economy than are Democrats. When John F. Kennedy was president, the country's average annual gross national product growth was 4.9%. It was 4.6% under Lyndon Johnson. Under the Republican Richard Nixon, it was 2.2%. And under Republican Gerald Ford, it was a mere 2.5%. And in contrast to the fiscal lies told by radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh, the growth under Ronald Reagan, with all the money being made by money, was 2.9%. Wake up, voters. Even under Jimmy Carter, the growth was 3%. There was no 92 months of recovery under Reagan. When will we stop listening to the Republican propaganda? The great big noise machine. Now, under the Republican George H.W. Bush, the growth is 0.3%. It is disinformation like this propaganda that led to the loss of the Vietnam War. Since 1978, tax cuts for the richest 1 million American families have added $860 billion to the national debt. Republicans believe that if we let the rich keep all their money and never demand that they pay their fair share of taxes, they will invest it and create jobs for those of us on the bottom rung of the economic ladder. It failed to work under Reagan, and it's a theory that only works in the minds of Republican Scrooges. The rich prefer to make money from money, and this does little for the economy as a whole, the foundational part. 3 decades of experience has shown us that Republicans are helpless when it comes to the economy. Just look at George W. Bush. Republicans lack vision because they believe the economy is cyclical and prosperity is always just around the corner. They have faith. What they don't factor into their faulty belief system is that with every recovery, the economy never gets better. Jobs are lost. Manufacturers die or leave the country. And a certain amount of unemployment remains with us to carry over into the next recession. The rate always grows. There are never enough jobs for those who want them. Our manufacturing base decreases, and our markets shrink. All this can't be blamed on Congress. Is the family the basic unit of society? What is the role of singles in the conservative belief system? Are all single parents Democrats or liberals? Conservatives state that their traditional family values derive from the Bible. But this is not true. The basic social unit under any tradition is the individual. Then there is the tribe, the clan, and family. Conservatives have got it all wrong. It is only an opinion that the family is the basic social unit. Also, why has no one pointed up the fact that members of organized crime believe highly in traditional family values, but it does nothing for their morals? What conservatives fail to take into account in all their social theories is that at the root of nearly all crime is money, 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 not family values or lack of them, nor political affiliations or liberality. And what about the need for more religion? Censored issues number 39 and number 40 should have answered this question for us. Those were on the political misuse of Christianity. All religions are not equal in the sight of God. There is only one true religion, if there exists the God of the Bible. If that is so, then God says that at this time He is only calling a few of us to enter His church. All other religions are man-made and of no consequence in the great scheme of things. Values, traditional or otherwise, derived from human sources. These religions are worthless as moral guideposts, since everything that humans have touched, they have corrupted. For instance, conservative economic values of governmental incentives became pillage 10 years ago. The U.S. had the world's highest wages, and now it ranks 10th in the world. Conservative religious values become intolerance. They always seek to draw a line on liberty. These misguided fools seek to rebuild America on the foundation of the laws and principles found in the Bible. Their thinking is that we are to submit to the hierarchical order that God has created, in which we are willing to submit to employers, civil government, and church leaders, and within the families, wives to husbands, and children to their parents. Fascism, pure and simple. What this chain of events leads to is that those at the top have no accountability. This is one of the problems we now face with our governmental representatives. No accountability, no checks and balances, one-party rule, corporatism, fascism. Why would anyone with not half his brain tied behind his back want more of this? The biblical hierarchical method only works when the true God is at the top, and when all under Him are one with Him. This method doesn't work for humans. We need change as the Democrats state. We need a return to traditional individual values where every human being is valued for himself, where the meek have just as much a chance of inheriting the earth as do the rich and greedy. We need presidents and representatives who use their minds, who write their own speeches, or who know what a supermarket price scanner is. As long as money is the prime mover in politics, we will never have honest representatives regardless of party affiliation. Americans have a fetish for money. It is a disease. It must be stopped. When a candidate or church asks for money, we are dealing with corrupt entities. We can make no progress in these areas until we understand this simple truth. Where money is concerned, there are no values. We must come to grips with this fact of life, or the wrongs in our political system can never be righted. Otherwise, names and faces may change, but the corruption and the non-evolution will continue. At this time, the only historical guide we have in working within our present corrupt system is that the Democrat, because he believes in liberty, is the lesser of two evils. Republicans, especially those who call themselves conservatives, always come down on the side of corrupt authorities, the status quo, very little individual liberty. Although they preach otherwise, in all of this, however, an independent is to be preferred. We saw how the elitist Republican George H.W. Bush treats Americans with grievances when he told hecklers at a missing in action conference to sit down and shut up. Our representatives mistakenly believe we sent them to Washington to do our thinking for us and to protect us from our own ignorance. They forget that they are public servants, not leaders or masters. Some of the founding fathers, like Alexander Hamilton, saw it differently. But even he required that those who went to serve would be our most intelligent, honest, and creative individuals. Today, we have none of that. It hasn't worked out that way. No one in his right mind can call men like Senator Strom Thurmond, Senator Jesse Helms, or Minority Whip Newt Gingrich men of intelligence, or I also add there Tom DeLay, Dennis Hastert. None of these men are of intelligence, honesty, or creativity. The Republican focusing on traditional family values is but blatant pandering to small minds who know nothing of real issues. They know these things win elections. The issue of traditional family values is used like the con man uses his smile or his soft voice. It is phony garb, put on by those who have no values, but know how to be elected. They need to pretend. One clearly could see this at the Republican convention. After Barbara Bush's speech, the whole family gathered on the podium. Mrs. Bush said something to one of the young girls, and when President Bush walked out onto the podium, the young girl threw her arms around him. Supposedly, Mrs. Bush didn't know that her husband was backstage and would walk on. What a joke. It was patently, offensively, obscenely contrived, staged, as was the most recent Republican convention. Richard Nixon believed in traditional family values, and he brought about Watergate and had to resign the presidency of the United States. Ronald Reagan believed in traditional family values, and he gave us Iran-Contra and the unrepentant liar, Ollie North. True traditional family values are not just to be believed in at election time, or only in a selective manner within one's own little circle. One must practice traditional family values on a universal basis. We must love not only our family, but our neighbors, our enemies, as the Bible says. We must love the family of humans, singles, widows, the fatherless, the raped, and the sexually harassed. No conservative Republican can truly practice this. So we come to the 1992 election. We are left with two choices: George H.W. Bush, the Republican, and Bill Clinton, the Democrat. As pointed out earlier, the choice is clear. The Democrat, because he believes in individual liberty, is the lesser of two evils. He was not the best candidate, but to have at least a working chance of taking back our country, it is always best to vote for the liberal Democrat if he can get to that point. And I said he, but we should be evolved enough to be thinking in terms of he or she. The end.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you.
Thank you very much, William H. Morrow III.
So you lost another argument with a conservative, right-wing Republican. He talked over you. He screamed and yelled. He brought out the Bible. He thumped it. He quoted scripture to you. You were lost because you came at him with facts. Nothing but facts. And you expected that would make you look good. That would make you win the argument, but it didn't. You know why you lost the argument? You know why you're going to lose your next argument? Because you don't read Censored. Censored, a 30-year-old newsletter that shows you how to defeat a conservative. Read Censored, and you'll have all the ammunition you need. Every time you get into an argument with a right-wing conservative, so-called Christian. Censored, that's all you need. Read it, and defeat a conservative.
Greetings, listeners. Let me speak to you for a moment about the foundation of our entire organization, Newsletters Censored. It was founded by our mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, in 1977. It discusses the 5 taboos of American life: politics, religion, health, human sexuality, and child rearing. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media and the press. It reveals the kind of truth that most people are afraid to hear. Can you handle it? We are living in the end times, so in order to defeat a conservative and save America, you need Newsletters Censored. Go to www.newslettercensored.com, click on the printable order form page, and with your gift to support this work, get your free annual subscription. This is James P. Madonna of Megalife 21, the hardest hitting internet talk radio station on the planet.